Hi friends, host Eric here, host Talking with Famous People. Quick bit on TITEFIFE. Maybe get it a little bit into the perception functions, but the thing about this, a lot of paradoxes are created by the fact that TI has a rejection of inconsistency engine to it. So that, but you see, the thing about that is it only applies externally. Like, insofar as if I'm right about the objects objectively, but it doesn't mean necessarily that it's the right thing to do. So the moral calculus is important as well. And when I get comments like, yeah, but you're really not being fair to Kim because you can always be right, and that doesn't afford her equal legitimacy, those are fair complaints. So that's true. TI has its own manner of unfairness. But additionally, it's true that TI has this anti-inconsistency engine. And what that means is, here I am acknowledging that and trying to remedy the inconsistency in some fashion. Now, the thing about that is that the hardest thing for then a TI tool user, especially, the weird thing is you're less attached to your dominant nature than you are to your tool function. By attached, I mean you basically don't come in any conflict with your dominant function at all. You're not looking for ways in which it causes problems. You can't even find any because it doesn't work that way for you. It's like, my TI fails me, my NE doesn't. If it does fail me, it just fails to produce. It doesn't do it wrong, you know? And really, it just doesn't ever fail me because it's my nature. I'm always going to include it in every calculation, and to the extent a calculation is unable to sustain that manner of attention at all, then it's not something I'm going to come into contact with much 90% of the time, because I'll be so avoidant of that kind of thing. But the tool function is something that's going to be an area of growth for everybody, because they're going to have to come to understand it in more nuanced ways, and they're going to, most importantly, have to understand when it's not useful. And that's what makes a study of cognitive functions and TI and FI and FE and TE, that's when it becomes really most meaningful, is when we talk about how can contexts lend themselves more or less to attending via one or more of these manners. So when we think about it in that fashion, we realize that Kim and my biggest conflict is not over how I am and how she is. It's over how I attend in a given context. So our biggest point of conflict is parties or external stuff, social stuff, in which those contexts she thinks it's absolutely imperative that I attend to her criterion. And by all logical calculi, she's right. That's an FE situation, right? So I should attend to her. I should prioritize. We should prefer her framework, basically. We should prioritize judgments rendered by extroverted feeling calculi ahead of introverted thinking calculi in those contexts. Now, it's introverted thinking that allows me to get to this spot where I go, okay, I can see how she might be right about this whole party thing now that I found the equivalency. Some people might say, well, see, Eric, that's why people say TI is subjective, because a little while ago you said the party, it was objectively so that you should have behaved as you did at the party, and now you're saying that maybe I should have preferred Kimberly's metric. Well, okay, but the thing about that is objective doesn't mean permanent. It means if I take a disinterested calculus on this is what the answer should be. But I'm not entirely disinterested. And I'm not perfect. Sometimes I'm wrong. Time and open discourse allow things to move ever closer towards rightness. There are plenty of wrong things I used to believe and used to maybe be able to objectively establish were preferable beliefs at the time that with new information I now understand were never correct. Because just because I make an objective calculus doesn't make me right. Sometimes the particularist concerns are the determinant factor in a given question, and we can narrow down the chances for TI to be wrong if we eliminate certain categories of things from its jurisdiction. So maybe it's not appropriate to determine how I should behave at a party using TI. Maybe I should defer to Ken. And maybe her FE metric of making the people who are hosting the party, making sure they feel comfortable and making sure that Kim feels happy and not embarrassed after the party, that's the proper priority there. There'd be an FI component too. It's like, well, shouldn't Kim get what's really important to her? Maybe, is this really that important to you? Doesn't she matter too? Those sort of questions are FI, FE, and now that the thing is, I didn't even know I was going to talk about this before I started fitting out this part of it. I really didn't know what I was going to talk about. But you can see how TI is objective, and at the same time, how that doesn't mean it's right. And this is an important quality to get through to everybody. The best TI can do is better than presented alternatives. That's the best it can ever do. You're right. You're right because there's no better thing presented, and only until there is a better thing presented. You might say some things are so correct that they, once established as correct, they last the test of time. Pi, for example, 3.14, whatever, all those numbers. That's proved to be very durable in its truth. Well, why? Because it links to a metaphysical representation of physical objects, which means it's much more precise, that is to say, less subject to meaning shift. A circle is a circle. It's been the same thing it's always been. And the radius is the radius. We might call it different things, but we're referring to the same concept. We've made a distinction between circle and not circle. And we have examples of circles in the world that we can look at. And so we know what a circle is. And that doesn't ever change because it's a fundamental meaning block. If we were talking about like millennials, well, though that population of people will continue to grow and change, and everyone's understanding the meaning of the word millennials will evolve, but it will always refer to people born between meow and meow, because that's a physical reality. People born between meow and meow is a physical reality, and as a consequence, it doesn't change. It's a status that, because it's a reference to a point in time, or points in time, that we don't subject them to alteration as to what that means, because if we were, it would alter everything that's based on the same calendar system. Like, if I were to say, well, now 1971 means meow, well then, now does 1972 mean meow? I mean, if you're older than me, it's like, would undermine too many other concepts that are dependent upon it, right? To change the meaning of something like that. The meaning of something like that is a referent point that is unchanging. In this instance, because by virtue of it being in the past, which is definitionally unchanging. That is to say, we may change our meanings about it all we wish, but the thing we're referring to doesn't change because it isn't existent except as an object of reference metaphysically, and as a consequence, that object can't change because again, it's interdependent with there are too many dependent concepts upon it to not maintain the notion that this distinct event as a object of analysis refers to something unchanging. And we know it's unchanging because we can reference other dependent concepts that must be so. It doesn't mean that, we know it's defined as unchanging. It's like, well, we're going to need a playing field. We're going to need something to represent a playing field. Well, let's use this piece of paper. Okay, now we're going to need something to represent little army men. Now let's use this thing. Well, it's like a piece of paper. Okay, so it's in that regard. I lost my train of thought. So anyway, the founding fathers of America and Aristotle and various other people have tried to find a way to talk about this very idea as applied to government. If in fact it is the case that we should contextually apply certain functions and they're appropriate in their mechanisms and or value priorities and or whatever else for that context, then which context ought we use for each function? We've talked about FE being appropriate for a party or something. The thing is, of course, FE is always appropriate for any communicative event if you care about outcomes. It makes, if you're trying to get something, good FE lubricates the wheels of justice, so to speak. If you are wishing to minimize objection or minimize disagreement or anything like that, well, then you need to use FE. But that certainly doesn't hurt. Appropriate for FI and TE are most things in life, frankly. It's like, that's the advantage FI and TE have over TI and FE, is for most things in life, FI and TE matter a lot more than do FE and TI. So most of the time, I'm not trying to accomplish something from somebody else that requires me to use FE. Most of the time, I'm at home doing what I want to do. Knowing what you want to do is kind of important if that's going to be how you're spending all your time. And that requires some FI. Now, for me, it's like I know what I want to do, though, and I don't have good FI. What the fuck is wrong with you? Hey, retard, go! Hey, stupid, accord, fucktard, shit for brains, move it. Okay, you have a V6 accord. You can go a little bit faster than slower than everybody else. Will you just get the fuck out of my way? Oh my God, you're so annoying. Oh, and you, what is wrong with you? You're both disabled. You're driving disabled. No, not, oh my God, another fucktard. No! Stop getting in my way! Right now! God, these people, they're so fucking retarded. They're in my way for no reason. Driving completely oblivious. Oh, I'm 10 minutes now. I'm on half the speed of everybody else. Park retard, is that you? Yeah, I'm bobbing in the... Are you trying to use tartness? Tartness! Yeah, you do love tartness, don't you, park retard? Okay, well, anyway, fuck tart's got me distracted. So what attentional manner was I using there? I was using SE, FE, and I guess That's about it. NE and FE and SE. The NE is saying, well, since this thing's making you mad with your FI, that they're in your way and shit, you might as well have fun with it. Make some insults and stuff, you know. Make yourself feel better. Condemn them for their wrongdoing in the name of justice. And thus do I so do. Regardless, the appropriate place for TI is philosophy/governance. So for public policy, we should use TI exclusively. And TE should be in the service of TI. So once TI decides what to do, then TE tells us how to do it. That's how it should go. FE makes everyone aware of what's happening in a way that everybody feels good about. And FI stays the fuck away from Washington, D.C. Now, the thing about it is, though, TI is not necessarily going to be expressed fairly. Take, for example, Donald Trump. So, what we really need to do is limit it to NETI or TINE. Just NTPs should be the governors. Those legislators, governors, presidents, whatever, should be all and only NTPs. Now, the people below the decision makers, right below the decision makers, the ones who are the people who actually get shit accomplished, that's the NTJs, okay? Because we don't want them making decisions because they don't have the right decision-making metric. They're not all about avoiding inconsistency and being fair. We will have the NFJs and SFJs sell it to everybody. Like, be like, okay, everybody, here's why you're okay with this. And then we'll have the STJs doing the actual work. STJs, you know, STPs, and that's it. They do the work. And then the people who protest anyway, even though everything's done properly and it's all right and everything's good and just and fine, the people who protest anyway are the NFPs. And the SFPs get drunk. The end.